Good morning everyone from very cold and windy Moscow. Today we are planning to go inside the Kremlin walls on the excursion, and on the way we will pop into Red Square because something very interesting is going on the Red Square today, and it's an immersive show and festival. Let's go and check it out. I'm actually very excited about it. It's going to be a lot of people on the Red Square today because it's Saturday and it's still early. Hopefully we will miss the crowd. Look at the view. Very interesting fact about Moscow, and particularly Red Square and Kremlin. Several Scottish architects left this mark on Kremlin and Moscow. For example, Christopher Galway, a Scottish clockmaker and architect, is known for constructing the clock tower on the Spasskaya Tower, the Moscow Kremlin, and water engine on another tower. The clock has a long and fascinating history. What we see and hear today is a result of centuries of change. The very first mention of a clock on the Kremlin walls dates all the way back to 1404. It was installed by Master Lazar Serbin. For its time, this clock was incredibly advanced. It didn't just show the hours, it displayed day and night time and had a complex mechanism that met all the requirements of that era. Over the years, the clock was reconstructed and restored multiple times, often due to fires, which were a serious problem in Old Moscow. Later, in 1625, the famous Scottish engineer and clockmaker Christopher Galway was invited to help build the new mechanism. Finally, the clock we see today was installed in 1852 by the Butenop brothers. Since then, it became a symbol of official Moscow time, and the sound of its chime is instantly recognizable to every Russian.
Hello, hello, hello.
Moscow!
Hello from Moscow.
Lying on the ground. Today is a very special day here on Red Square. There is an exhibit of different vehicles, an immersive show and theatrical shows as well. Let's see some vehicles first. Soviet city bus designed to carry 29 passengers. And it says militia, which is police. Aircraft Yak-3, the Soviet World War II fighter aircraft designed by Yakovlev. The Yak-3 was flown by French pilots on the Normandy Niemen Aviation Regiment.
Героев беспримерных сражений на всех фронтах от Баренцева до Черного моря. Вот вышел фронтов. Вот где запассировал снег и кожа. Кто брал снег и Виноградский суд, кто сражался на улицах Будапешта, Кёнигсберга, Вены, и кто водрузил знамя нашей победы над Берлином.
So this one is a Bomba PO-2 Soviet multi-purpose biplane designed by Polikarpov.
Генералами, героями Советского Союза. Над фашистской Германией одержана победа, какой еще не знала история. Мы победили потому, что нас вел к победе наш великий вождь и гениальный полководец, маршал Советского Союза Сталин.
You see on the screen right now is also has been replicated here on the Red Square today. There is a parade showing on the big screen just right behind me. It's the first ever parade on the Red Square celebrating Victory Day. There was also a display of World War II tanks, powerful symbols of the past. One of them is bearing the mark of a shell strike, a clear sign of the battle it once faced. Despite the damage, it remained operational, protecting its crew and contributed to victory on the front lines. And for the duration of the festival, it stands quietly on Red Square, not as a weapon, but as a powerful reminder of courage, bravery, and determination of a nation that refuses to break.
Сегодня за них вот здесь находится на Красной площади.
The festival program was broad, informal, and genuinely interesting. There were also displays of wartime medals and personal belongings, items that once belonged to real people with real stories, bringing history to life in a very human way. This is the Nikolskaya Tower, one of the towers of the Kremlin. It was built in the late 15th century. Historically, it served as one of the entrances to the Kremlin and was once topped with a two-headed eagle. Wow, a huge queue over there. Not sure what is it for. Извините, пожалуйста, а вот эта очередь куда? А, в мавзолей, да? А нужно покупать билет сначала или бесплатно? Бесплатно, да? Да, мы видели, спасибо. Yeah. It's to see Lenin. A big queue to see Lenin. So all that queue to mausoleum to see Lenin. We decided to skip the queue and head over to Kremlin instead. Especially that it's not allowed to film in mausoleum.
Сейчас, подождите, сейчас мы поднимем.
By the Kremlin wall, the internal flame burns steadily, never fading, never forgotten. This is the tomb of the unknown soldier, a place of deep silence and respect. It honors those who never returned home, whose names remain unknown, but whose sacrifice lives on forever. Even today, people come here with flowers, with memories, and with tears. Along the Kremlin wall, near the tomb of the unknown soldier, you will see a row of dark red granite blocks. Each one bears the name of a hero city, a title awarded to cities in the former Soviet Union that showed extraordinary courage and sacrifice during Great Patriotic War. Cities like Leningrad, Stalingrad, Sevastopol, Odessa, and others are remembered here. These weren't just places on a map, they were battlefield shelters and symbols of resistance. This memorial honors not only the cities themselves, but the people who lived, fought, and died there. This monument, known as the Ruins, is a symbol of the city's revival after the devastating fire of 1812. It was built using bricks made from the debris of Moscow buildings destroyed during the French invasion. A powerful reminder that even out of ashes, a city can rise again. After buying tickets for the cathedral entrance and the Armoury Chambers, we stood the queue that moved surprisingly fast. The tickets cost 5,000 rubles for the two of us. These carved double-arched merlons on the Kremlin walls aren't just decorative. They were inspired by Italian fortress architecture. When Ivan the Great invited Italian architects to rebuild the Kremlin in the late 1400s, they brought a little bit of Renaissance style with them. We are inside the Kremlin walls. Then we went to Armoury Chamber. The audio guide cost an extra 400 rubles each. I actually managed to get a little bit of footage before they told me to stop filming. The Armoury is a part of the Grand Kremlin Palace complex, and it's basically a treasure museum. The building was completed in 1851, but the collection inside has been growing for centuries. Many of the items originally came from royal treasuries and churches. Some were made right here in Kremlin workshops, while others were impressive gifts from foreign embassies. Inside, you will find ancient state regalia, coronation robes, royal outfits, and one of the largest collections of Russian gold and silver. There is also stunning European silver, historical weapons, fancy old carriages, and even ceremonial horse gear. In total, the museum holds around 4,000 decorative and applied art pieces from Russia, Europe, and the East, dating from the 4th century to the nearly 20s. The collection is world famous for both its artistic quality and historic value. The layout of the Kremlin, and especially Cathedral Square, is considered one of the most impressive in the world, and here's why. First of all, everything inside these walls was planned with purpose. You've got massive churches, royal palaces, and important government buildings, all carefully positioned to create a sense of order, balance, and power. It's not a chaotic or random like you might expect from some buildings over centuries. Instead, it feels like everything belongs exactly where it should be. The layout combines military strength, political power, and religious symbolism, all in one space, and yet it still feels open, elegant, and walkable. It's a fortress, a city, and a sacred site all roll into one. This is the Archangel Cathedral, one of the most important churches in the Kremlin. For centuries, it was the main burial place of Russian rulers, including Ivan the Terrible and Dmitry Donskoy, the prince who led the Russians to victory against the Mongols. But that's the story for another time. And speaking of Ivan, I've always found the English name Ivan the Terrible a bit misleading. In Russian, he's called Ivan Grozny, and that word Grozny doesn't exactly mean terrible in the way it used in English. A more accurate translation might be thunderous. The root of the word is related to grom, thunder, and originally it had to do with power, force, and fearsome strength, not cruelty. But over time, there was something called a semantic shift, where the meaning of the word changed, and in English that shift went too far. So now we have Ivan the Terrible, which sounds more negative than the Russian meaning intended. To be fair, Ivan the Terrible was a complicated figure. He was a brilliant strategist who expanded the Russian state significantly. And then there is a famous story that he killed his own son in a fit of rage. You've probably seen the painting Ivan holding his dying son, horrified at what he's done. It's powerful, but historically, it's not so clear. That story was first reported by a foreign diplomat named Antonio Possevino, who visited Russia in 1581, the year it was supposedly happened. But Possevino didn't witness anything himself. His account came from the second-hand sources. And let's be honest, he wasn't exactly a neutral observer. He was representing the Pope and had his own political and religious agenda. So, how trustworthy his version is? Well, that's still debatable by historians today. But what we know is that Ivan had a rough start in life. His father died when he was just 3, and his mother was poisoned when he was 8. He grew up basically abandoned in a royal court, surrounded by scheming nobles. That kind of trauma shaped a person and probably helps explain some of the paranoia and brutality he showed later on. This is the famous Tsar Cannon, or Tsar Pushka in Russian. It was made way back in 1586 by a Russian craftsman named Andrei Chokhov during the reign of Tsar Fyodor, Ivan the Terrible's son. It weighs almost 40 tons and has a barrel nearly 90 centimeters wide. That's absolutely massive. But funny enough, it was never actually used in battle. It's more of a showpiece. And this is the Tsar bell, or Tsar Kolokol, the biggest bell in the world. It was cast in 1735 and weighs over 200 tons. Unfortunately, it was never actually run. During a fire at the Kremlin, cold water was poured on the hot bell, and a huge piece broke off. You can still see the damage right here. Inside the Kremlin walls, visitors are only permitted to walk along designated pedestrian crossings. Security is strict, with guards stationed throughout the ground, and the movement outside the marked paths is not allowed. Lots of benches where people can relax.
Wow.
And the view on River Moscow. Moskva-reka and helicopter pad. Nice promenade in here. Just beautiful area to relax. Just for lemonade. Let's go get that lemonade. Здравствуйте. Дюшес, пожалуйста. After a full day of walking around, we popped into a central department store right next to Red Square for a quick break and a taste of something iconic, the legendary Soviet lemonade. They've been using the same recipe since the USSR days, and honestly, it still holds up. What's happening? Ice cream must be good. Look at that queue. We stopped at Zaryadye Park again before heading to the restaurant to meet up with our friends for dinner. And that's where I will leave you for today. In this time of endless content and constant information overload, I really appreciate that you clicked on my video and chose to spend a few times here with me. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and consider subscribing. I've got more interesting stories to tell. Until next time, bye for now.